Hello, everyone.
Okay, great. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here today for our second Firstly Real Talk session. Thank you so much for being here tonight and taking time out of your schedules to welcome our guest, Vivian Yuan. So Vivian is a tax director at RSM in San Francisco. She identifies with being a woman, immigrant, international student, and Asian. She provides tax consulting, planning, and compliance services for venture capital investors, investees, SEC registrants, and closely held businesses. So she has 13 years of corporate and partnership tax experience and has worked extensively with clients in technology, energy, and financial services industries. And so with this series in general, if you were able to attend the last session, or if you weren't, we just want to hold these real talks to remind our community members that even though it may seem intimidating to reach out to professionals, they are also just regular people like us. So, we all have different interests and hobbies. And so, Vivian, I think if you wanted to add to your bio, I just wanted to welcome you. If you wanted to give some background about you, about your personal life, what you like doing for fun or how you like spending your time these days.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this program. I'm Vivian Yuan. I've been with RSM for 4 years. Actually, I'm from Shanghai, China, and I went to university, the Peking University in Beijing, China for college. And then during my last semester of college, I went on exchange in Queen's University, Canada, in their business school. That's also a very fun experience. And then after that, I went to University of Notre Dame for MSA program. Since then, I've been working in the Bay Area for over 13 years now. It's a long journey and very challenging and very nice experience. In my personal life, I like to go traveling and hiking, especially in the most recent 2 years with COVID. It's not very convenient to travel around. So I try to hike more along the Oakland Hills, Berkeley, and Lake Chabot. Those are my favorite spots for hiking. And I know Laura and Lindsay, those two are my coworkers. I definitely welcome them to go hiking with me often over the weekend.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. So you touched a lot about like your education background and kind of transitioning into those different environments. I definitely want to hear more about that and kind of the lessons you've learned, being, in different environments throughout your education.
Yes, actually very challenging at the beginning, especially the period when I came from China to Canada. That's the first time I went abroad to get to know more about the Western world. It's very mind-broadening experience there. And Canada's political environment or people environment is pretty similar to the US, but it's still a little bit different. So I had a very good experience there. And then after that, I went to University of Notre Dame. That's a Catholic school. So it's definitely my first time to get to know the entire religion and the church. And we pray before each class. And I went to masses over the weekend. That's a very refreshing experience for me. And that's kind of opening my mind about what's out there in the world. And I actually like to share the career-related experience from China to all the way to Notre Dame. Because at the last semester of my college, I actually just at the end, I just went up to almost each professor and then just say, hey, thank you for your teaching. And I'm going to University of Notre Dame for MSA. And I really enjoyed the whole, your courses, your classes, and they're all very happy. And then I mentioned the expensive tuition in Notre Dame. And I said that I actually would like some money, like even working on campus to make up for the difference between the tuition and my scholarship. And actually, one of my finance professors in Peking University said to me that, oh, I actually know someone from University of Notre Dame. He's also a finance professor there. And would you I'm sure he would like some research assistant help. Would you be interested? I said, oh, sure. Yeah, that would be great. And then, like 2 days later, I got that job as finance research assistant. And it's like, I didn't really plan it. I didn't intend it to get anything when I talked to that professor. I just wanted to say thank you. And that just happened. It's unexpected, but it's lucky. But the reason I want to share about it is like the whole thing happened. Yes, there's luck inside, but it's also from your hard work, so that your finance professor knows you, he remembers you, and he likes you, so that he's willing to spend the time talking to you and referring to you to the professor in the University of Notre Dame, and then finally helped you land that job. So that whole experience, I say, actually give me a very good thoughts about how we should network. You don't have to be very intentional, but you do have to be a good person. B, you work hard and earns people's respect. And C, of course, you will need a little bit of luck, but that luck will happen sooner or later. It may not be expected, but it will happen. So yeah, and I think even in the US, when I am just alone, I don't have any family here. It's not much family support, but I still kind of start to build up my own network, like friends, coworkers, or ex-coworkers, so that, and we all keep in touch so that we can help each other. It doesn't have to be intentional. You wouldn't like just be connected with the people just in order to be rewarded intentionally, but that just happens as a side product of your good character and your good work.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing. I resonated with so much of what you said. I think first, like putting yourself in just an uncomfortable situation, your experience at Notre Dame, being in this kind of like religious environment where you maybe didn't grow up with it, but there's something to learn about the way, maybe like why the school does these things, why people believe in what they do, and, just kind of like opening up your mind to like other people and other experiences to just give you a better sense of the world. I really love that. And, I really want to emphasize what you had mentioned about networking and just the fact that you asked for just help. And that's something that we really love emphasizing here at Firstly with the mentorship program specifically, because, you don't know until you ask, right? And what you said about just being a good person and just building the relationship is also super important, because, nobody really wants to feel like you're trying to get something out of them. It really is about building a strong relationship with the person, a genuine relationship, I think, with, just how much this like culture of the corporate world has evolved over the last couple of years. People are really genuinely looking for connections. So I'm really glad to hear that, you know, you in just being here in the US, you were able to expand and really put yourself out there to create relationships among all of the different environments you were in. So yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And that referral, actually, that job I've got as a finance research assistant is probably one of the highest paid on-campus job in that university. That's usually like an average international student would only be able to find some on-campus restaurant jobs, and that pays minimum wages. And my hourly rate was like, I think at least 20% higher than theirs. And all I did was just saying thank you to my professor. So I feel like from that lesson, I constantly remind me about the importance of networking and how that would actually boost your pay and boost your career growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of those things still resonate today too. So yeah, that kind of also just talking about jobs and stuff. You know, many mentees in the Firstly program are working on getting their first internships or business jobs. And before we actually started this session, Vivian was telling me that she had a internship in audit, but when she was in school. So could you tell us a little bit about your, you know, experience getting other job experience or your first job out of college?
Sure. That was in my junior year of college. I was in Beijing at that time, and at that time I already know that I really like taxation, and I love the idea about how to save people's taxes. I don't like to pay taxes myself, and I don't think anyone would like that. So I already know that I like tax. The only thing I'm not sure is about the audit. So I did an audit internship in EY Beijing, and the people there worked very hard, like till midnight during summertime, and we the interns don't need to work that hard, but it's still just by looking at their eyes every morning, I know they're tired. And I'm afraid of this kind of life. I still would like a work-life balance. I still want to maintain a very healthy lifestyle. So I don't think I will fit in that audit um, career. So that's why I chose tax. And I feel like currently, actually throughout my career, though I've been in the public accounting firms all the way, I try to still maintain a very healthy lifestyle and try to separate the work from my personal time. Um, I think for new graduates, it's very important to think about first your goal, like what you really want to do and what you really don't want to do. Like, are you willing to work long hours? Are you willing to like spend a lot of time just doing something that you don't like, or are you willing to spend a lot of time doing things you like, or you don't even want to spend much time even for things you like? So just by figuring out what you really want to do is very important at the start. And then once you know your goal, then try to focus on like, are your school courses matched to your goal? Are you doing well in your courses? Because only if you do well in your courses will the professors of those courses be willing to refer you to different opportunities they would not be hesitant to say, hey, this is a great student. You can count on him or her to do the job. So I think after you know your goal, the schoolwork that match that goal is very important. And then try to build up the network. As I just said, you never know who will be the next one to refer you a job opportunity. So just be conscious about that, be willing to spend time just to build relationships. It doesn't have to be like late parties all nights, but you do need to like go to different social events or network with your teachers or friends or your family members or your family's friends, so that you have a better chance than others to land a job that you want.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that so much. And I really love how you just lead with curiosity too. You know, you already had this, you were leaning towards tax, but you're like, oh, let me try audit and see if I like it. And, you know, I think kind of the only way to figure out if you like something or don't is if you try it. So I really think that's something our students can learn from and take away. And you know, you as a student, I think you are in a really great position. You know, you have so much, like so many opportunities at school, whether it's through student organizations or through networking like Firstly and other programs, you know, to really figure out and talk to people who are in different industries to see if you know, would like doing those day-to-day tasks, or you know, like Vivian, you said, if you are willing to maybe like compromise a few things like working long hours or you know, things like that, and work-life balance. So yeah, thank you. And then you mentioned, you know, your professors, and actually a large part of Firstly, what we preach here is about social mobility. And, you know, your network really exists in places you don't think it does, like your family or family friends, people who know each other. And so, you know, you mentioned your professor before, but is there like another person or peer or mentor that you can think of who have helped like jumpstart your own career?
I can actually give you a negative example about the bad experience. Because you know, as an international student, I don't have much family or network at the beginning in the US. So the support would be limited other than the career center in my university, in the University of Notre Dame. So other than that, there's not really any help at that time in my first year. So yeah, that was actually the most difficult time of my life. But yeah, the bad experience I can share with you is at my first year of working in my first public accounting firm. You know, I was only in the US for just a year at a time. So there are still a lot of cultural differences I have to tackle and be aware of. And like after a year, like at the annual evaluation, after a year of working, the evaluator told me that, oh, you shouldn't have said this, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that. It's all about all those cultural differences. And then I was so surprised. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. And I didn't realize how important all of things are to Americans. So, and you only told me just now, as like, thank you for your timely evaluation. It's all about that kind of feeling. So, you know, I think especially for new graduates, and especially for people at their first job, it's very important to find some mentor, or it doesn't have to be your formal mentor. It can be just anyone who's able and willing to give you honest feedback and timely feedback, and so that you can correct whatever error is or things to improve. At least be aware of that, and then try to get some advice from people like how to improve. As for my first year, I didn't really realize all of those things, and let alone to improve on those things. And I feel like it would be great if I could have someone just tell me immediately, oh, stop doing that or stop saying that. And that would be actually the best for the long term, even if it might hurt at the spot, but it will be good for you. So even now, I tend to tell my mentors in the firm or my bosses, oh, just tell me if I said something that's not very appropriate, so that I know that I shouldn't say this. And if you just give me a hint, I may be too slow to get it, let alone to improve on it. So I think that's very important, even for Americans, the new graduates. There's still a lot of things that you might not be aware of in the workplace. That's definitely different from your school life. So yeah, try to find someone who's honest and willing to give you timely feedback and give you advice on that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and being vulnerable with the audience, and sharing about that challenge that you faced. Yeah, I can see how having this negative experience really, like, it's good to know that these situations exist in order for people to really seek out that mentor or have that buddy that you can kind of ask any questions to, or someone that will reciprocate that feedback with you. So yeah, I think too, you mentioned like the transition from being in school to the corporate world. There is definitely like a huge transition there. So thank you for touching upon that. Let's see, and then let's do one more question, and then if people in the audience have a question for Vivian, go ahead and type into the chat, and then we'll have a Q&A. But yeah, I guess, like, what is something you wish you knew, or aside from everything that you shared already, like, is there something else that you wish that you knew or understood when you were starting out your career?
I say maybe to attend more social events, like join organizations like Ascend or like your program. Firstly, I think that's a very helpful, very inspiring program. And the more you join those kinds of organizations or program, you will be more connected to people, like different people from different careers. Just try to broaden your views about the world, about what other people are doing in the world. It doesn't have to be in accounting or tax or business. It can be in any industry. And one day in the future, you realize, oh, that's valuable and that's actually useful in my life or in my career. You don't know what that is, but I promised you that it will happen in the future. And I personally have joined quite a few organizations here, like Ascend, and of course, all the RSMs, CDI events, and also the Asia Society organization here, and China SF, which is like the Department of Commerce sponsored program for businesses between China and San Francisco, where you'll see a lot of co-investments or cross-border investments. and you talk to those people. They are Chinese people and American peoples there, mostly businessmen, but also maybe a few politicians. And it's just by talking to them, you get to know a lot of things that the US media would not tell you, and to get to be much closer to the truth. And it will be definitely broadening your view about the entire world. So yeah, I highly recommend people to join all those different types of clubs, organizations, or charities, whatever you're interested. Spend time with those people in the organization and just listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and something I also share with students I speak to as well. You just kind of dip your hands in things that you're interested in, and also kind of find like that community of people you relate to, and maybe put yourself in other organizations where you might get to meet different people, who can expand your viewpoint of the world. Because we only have like the 1 mile radius around us sometimes. I guess like to touch on that, Vivian, based on like all the organizations that you listed, like I want to know kind of like what you're passionate about.
Well, actually, after I came to the US, I start to know people, like all those professors in the university first, like all those Chinese professors. I would just went to their home to have lunch with them, with their family. And then at that time, I realized the children of those Chinese professors would not even speak Chinese, even at home, even though they understand and can speak Chinese. And at first I was very surprised, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And do you know what you're losing by refusing to speak the language? And of course, I didn't say to the parents, but that's what I thought. But after a few years, I kind of realized what the Asian Americans are experiencing in school or in the workplace, and kind of the dilemma they're experience. So I came to understand more about why those kids do not want to speak the language or even look Chinese. But I don't really agree with their approach, because they're basically avoiding the situation. They are not really addressing it. So I feel like now I'm already a tax director. I feel like I have more responsibility to help the young talent to address those, help them to take the courage to stand up for themselves and try to fight for themselves and further their career.
No, I think what you mentioned about like having the courage, because I can kind of speak for myself as an Asian American too. I think a lot of the correlation between like speaking the language at home versus speaking English at home it really is rooted in a lot of confidence and not having the confidence to speak because you don't sound native, or it just doesn't sound good. I know my mom always said my accent was ugly. So I really understand that. And to your point, it really does kind of seep into your experience in the corporate world, where you're not advocating for yourself, or you're not speaking up, or trying to get on projects that you're really interested in, and basically selling yourself up to gain those opportunities. So definitely makes a lot of sense. And I love that your position as tax director, you're using that to enable like the young people to really embrace that.
Yeah, because after the negative experience I had in my first firm, I kind of saying to myself, oh no, this is not the route I'm going to go through. And I'm going to fight for myself, and I'm going to get paid the fair share of my market value. And this is what the website or whatever the database says. And here's my work quality, and I should get this much. And uh, are you going to pay me this much? So I feel like if you really show up as some person and being very tough and willing to fight for yourself, people would recognize that, and they will actually respect you more, and they'll give you more, and that they will begin to like you, even though you're Chinese or any minority people. And that's the way I kind of further my career. And would love to share my experience on all of those things. And our program is short, but yeah, if you have any specific questions, be free to send it by chat so that we can address.
Yeah, this is a great place to pause for questions. If anybody wanted to ask anything to Vivian, go ahead and unmute yourself. Otherwise, yeah, we can just keep on chatting here and having this very real conversation.
Yeah, because I noticed like, or even in RSM, when we have group discussions, like the Asians are probably still kind of be quiet and just sitting at a table and say nothing. And I noticed at a lot of times I was probably the only person, the only Asian to speak up, and then just I I think I don't know whether it's because of the school education or their experiences in school that they tend to do that, or maybe it's partly due to their family education. But actually, in my generation in China, the students are actually becoming very proactive, and they are very, they work very hard to get what they want, and they are willing to speak up. So I feel like that's kind of like the reverse cultural shock for me. And actually the Asian Americans here are not that willing to speak up now. And I look at my classmates, also myself, who's raised up in China, and they are way more proactive, way more aggressive. And that's a very sharp comparison. And I really wondered why it's like that, because they are pretty much raised by by the Chinese or some other Asian parents, and the difference is very big.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely resonate with that. And you know, what you said about being aggressive, like unfortunately that's seen as kind of like a bad thing here. But it's actually not, right? Like it's yeah, don't want to get too into that, but yeah, I think, if we want to talk, if people want to talk offline about that and like identity and stuff, I think that there's a huge conversation to be had about that. Okay, so Laura asks, have you had any experiences where you were able to educate someone or change their mind about a misconception about the Asian community?
Sure. I think it's just by doing it by example. You are one of the Asian community, so every Asian here is responsible to change people's mind about the Asian community. And for me, I just try to speak up my mind at a meeting, or just tell my boss what should be my fair pay. And other, or even sometimes I would just argue about something with my boss because I know I'm right and he's wrong. So, and I think as long as you believe that what you are saying or doing is correct, you should stand up for it and try to get other people to see where you're going and to see that you're right. And that's how you lead. I really like to just lead by example. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not talkative. I'm not able to persuade people very well, except by example. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, and I think, part of what you're saying is just like having that diversity and like having those examples for students to like look up to, like some people who may not be the most outspoken person in the room will be able to kind of like hone their skills into speaking up for themselves. And it might seem uncomfortable, but I think the more you're kind of in those situations, the more it'll become, you'll become more confident in how you speak, especially when it's to somebody maybe you don't agree with or maybe don't have a similar identity with.
Right, and I would actually suggest people, especially young people, to take maybe some martial arts classes that will really enhance your confidence against anyone.
I love that. That's great advice. I should also take martial arts class. Okay,
Yeah,
Lindsay
honestly,
asks.
it's like against anyone.
Okay, Lindsay asks, do you have any suggestions for new hires, recent graduates in the remote working environment?
Yeah, I know it's difficult in the last 2 years. Everyone, including our new hires, have to be work from home. It's actually, I know many people enjoy it, especially the young talents. I also enjoy it, but I know that especially the new hires will lose a lot simply by just having no one be by their side when they have questions, and they may not feel comfortable to ask questions because they don't really know anyone and they didn't really have any good opportunities to get to know everyone. So my suggestion is, now as COVID is kind of calmed down and people are going back to the office, I think especially the new hires should try to work from office more and try to have more in-person experience. You would never have the same experience just by like having Zoom or WebEx talks. And like I think when you work in person and when you have meetings in person, even though it may not be as efficient as having Zoom meeting, you actually spend some time before or after the meeting talking to your colleagues and get to know them. And you can ask some unrelated questions at that time with your colleagues. So that actually furthers the relationship and help address your questions timely. So I think, yeah, the remote working environment, hopefully it's not going to be permanent. Our firm is actively trying to get people back to work in office. And we hope that more and more new hires will be work from the office instead of from home, at least like 1 or 2 days a week. That's our goal, and I do believe that that's actually benefits the new hires more than experienced people.
Yeah, agree. I came from also like the public accounting world. So really having that cohort to learn all these new things together and support each other, it was really helpful. And that's kind of why we wanted to like emulate that. I know it's in the virtual world, but in the Firstly community, we really wanted that sense of like everyone is going through their career, professional, starting out their professional careers. Doesn't matter what place you're in, but everyone kind of goes through the different milestones together. So really it makes a difference. Right. Spencer says, I'm fourth generation ABC, Asian American born Chinese. And even after so many generations, humility is still an ingrained part of Asian culture. Do you have any advice on balancing humility with appropriately talking yourself up and celebrating your achievements, i.e. on your resume, interviews, etc.?
I think humility is good, actually. It's one of the precious traits of Asian people. And I thought I'm still keep that trait in my heart, though I think that should be more for your personal life than the career life, especially in the US. As after I came to the US, I realized that in the workplace, you actually want to speak up more and sometimes show off a little bit and just try to take some challenging tasks, even if you don't really know whether you can accomplish that very well at the beginning. But make sure you have a good teacher or mentor to help you through that. But I think you do want to show that you have this right attitude to accomplish challenging things. And also when you know that you're right and everyone else is wrong, you do want to speak up, but maybe you may want to watch about the situation and the occasion of speaking up. But when you believe you are the right side, you should speak up at the appropriate occasion. Also about the to fighting for the right pay. It's really a combination of whether your work is worth that pay and whether you are courageous enough to raise that issue to your boss. And my advice is just to be prepared and do your homework about the market price and your work quality and everything you can put there to make your boss realize that you are worth the pay. It's not in contrast with humility, I think, because you are just getting what you are worth. I don't think it's anything against humility. And I think compared to maybe the mainstream Caucasian group, I see some data that Asian people are still much less paid for the same role. So we still have a long way to go. And I wouldn't even think about humility in that case because we are already in the position of humility. This is actually an embarrassment at that, and we should all fight against it.
Yeah, I think just speaking on, just marginalized communities in general, I think, just really advocating for yourself and the other people who identify in those situations is really important in the corporate workplace. Thanks, Spencer, for your question. All right, Jeffrey asks, how have the complex tax issues changed over the years of you in the financial services industry regarding the competitiveness of some firms? Were you well equipped to resolve these issues, and what was an example? So something related to tax.
Sure. Most big accounting firms have the database and the regular tax law updates. So as long as you keep reading up all those updates and the new tax laws, you will be updated with the most recent developments. So it's not really a big issue in the biggest public accounting firms. It may be an issue in the smaller firms where they do not have so many good resources or support or online database. But it's not a problem in the biggest public accounting firms. But of course, all those tax laws and updates are are in hundreds of pages that you would need to spend a lot of time reading those. Or even we have some training or WebEx that's have like a summary of those recent updates. There's still a lot of things to remember and go through. So you do have to take a lot of time to actually read through the updates, understand that, and then go over detailed examples for that. So yeah, that's how we are paid to do the job. It's and that's what we are doing every day. It's not much big difference from one firm to another.
Thank you. And then we are almost at time, but I had one more question just to kind of close out this session. But you've shared a lot of really relatable and valuable advice. Did you have something, just one more thing you wanted to share with the Firstly community on, whether it's other mentors and mentees that are part of the Firstly community?
Sure. I say, well, now I'm both a mentor and mentee in my own firm. I have two mentees in the firm, and my boss is my mentor. So whenever I talk to them, as most people are still working from home right now, I try to like have very frequent checking calls with them, both mentors and mentees, just to see what they're thinking, what kind of things they're going through. And I think those are just very helpful. It may not be directly related to the work, but it kind of help you to know what they're thinking. And only for me personally, I would be that the all of those ideas or issues they raise up is also very inspirational. So yeah, I think for the mentors, it's really important to have all those checking costs, and more importantly for the mentees, it's actually your responsibility to reach out to all of those people. And it doesn't have to be your formal mentor. It can be anyone you think who's able to give you honest and timely feedbacks. Just reach out to them and say, hey, can I talk to you for 20 minutes about this, or just to get to know you more? Or it doesn't have to be something formal, but just get to know more people, and again, build up your network, and just listen to their stories, their experiences, and you might find that very interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. I have loved this conversation and just the emphasis you place on building relationships, because at the end of the day, we just want to connect with people, especially after this pandemic. It's just super important to keep those connections.
Yeah. And about like resumes or interviews, yeah, I say like make sure it looks better than what you did actually, especially on the resume. Yes, no, you're not lying or cheating or anything like that, but It's just go over the resume a few times. You will always find some things to improve or correct, and have your classmates or even your teachers look through them and get their advice on that. And then practice your interviews. That's so important, especially for international students. But I also think even for Americans, you want to practice a few times in front of either your friends or family and get their advice how where you sound great and where you need more improvement. All of those things are all an essential part of job hunting. And um, even after you land a job, you will constantly do a lot of talking and speaking. And even if just at a meeting, even if it's just a very casual presentation in front of your coworkers, it's all the same public speaking skills that you can practice starting from your interviews.
Yeah, I love that. Just kind of your mindset around always learning and always trying to get feedback to become better. That's definitely how you moved up the ladder into being a tax director, I'm sure. And,
Yeah.
you adopting that mindset. So I love that advice that you gave to our community. So thank you,
Thank
Vivian.
you. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Very
one
kind.
last thing before we close out today, I just wanted to highlight the scholarship opportunity that RSM is sharing right now. So for the next generation, low income, first gen students, RSM is giving away a scholarship for $10,000. So 10 students are each awarded a scholarship, and there's a first generation scholarship as well, where 5 students are awarded $10,000. And this may be renewed for up to 3 academic years. So in total, a $30,000 scholarship for the duration of your college career. So the application is due at the end of the month. And so if you're interested, the link and all the information is available in the Firstly Discord channel. And you can reach out to Kevin or myself or any member of RSM who may have more information about that scholarship. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Vivian, it was great, chatting with you tonight, you being just very vulnerable and real about your experiences that you've had just kind of coming to the US as an immigrant and working your way through the corporate world. I'm sure our students and also the mentors who are part of our community will find your experience super valuable. So thank you so much again for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And just know that you always have people who like you, and you always have people who dislike you. Just don't lose confidence just because of that. You should have self-confidence by what you are doing and what you have accomplished. Thank you, everyone.
Very well said. We'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you.